As you have heard, there are many good things about Engage project, but one of the most important richnesses of this project is the broad partnership. It has to be somehow involved with local authorities because it would help to boost the development. But in order for it to happen, there must be some common rules. But then again, if you are successful in sharing the infra, it may save time and euro. But as we have experience from our network in Finland, it may sound easier than it actually is in reality. Sharing model regarding ducts, it was said that it requires public funding. And also, when you think about different utility companies, the most natural partners are telecom companies and electrical companies because the cable is pretty much the same. If you think about gas company or water company, the pipe is so much bigger and you can't trench it automatically underneath the ground. You have to dig a huge ditch for it. So I think, and it was also the opinion of other partners as well, that it's the electricity companies that are the most natural partners in this. And then, benefits. Are there any benefits? As you can see, there are a few benefits, but like I mentioned a little bit, there are more bottlenecks. This is a good idea, but it needs things to improve it. About benefits, of course, this could lead to a neutral and open network if done properly. We could have wider coverage, naturally. We would increase competition and then harmonize services in Europe. And we would have savings if we have common rules in how to use common infra. But bottlenecks, unfortunately, there are more of them. When you think about them, for example, annual license fees, how much will the duct owner require euros per month, per year? That may be a lot. So is it actually more, does it benefit more to put your own cable besides the duct and not use the duct? Sometimes it is, actually. It's cheaper to dig your own cable than use the existing ducts. What are the bottlenecks? I won't go through them all. I think you all can read. So, of course, legal constrictions. That's one bottleneck. Problems with access to existing networks. Lack of local coordination. Fiber networks are often closed, so if you rent a fiber from someone, you are not allowed to carry third parties' traffic on that. So. Okay, then about ducts, benefits and disadvantage in using common ducts. Again, reducing investment costs, faster implementation, but then again, there are more disadvantages like pricing. You are dependent on the owner, the size of the duct might be too small, it might be already full. Operational model, who's responsible for it if something happens to it, who repairs it, and so on. So there are many disadvantages in this one too. Well, how to encourage utility companies? We have some examples in Finland that we have done with telecom companies. Basically trading fibers. You get fiber from place A to place B and the other one gets from place C to place D. So trading fibers. You can actually do it with utility companies as well in a way that if you get their duct, they will get better internet connection. They will get fiber connection, for instance. So there's a possibility to trade there too. Of course, laws. We can force them to do it. Just forcing is not usually a very good idea, but it's it's possible. And of course, coordination. My English is so bad today. Is one thing. Then, next slide. About mapping, we heard about mapping this morning, and all the partners felt that it's extremely important. What benefits did we see in mapping? Of course, it gives good info for local authorities. It prevents problems such as digging up wrong cables. And it helps to optimal management of different infra. What kind of info did we think that should be included in such a maps? Well, ducts, pipes, fiber, other wired infra, and what kind of infra, what type, what size. Exchange nodes, poles, info if certain buildings are fiber to the home ready. Okay, then next we went to civil works. Some good practices that we had in Europe concerning coordination of civil works. In Germany, of course, we have the construction atlas. In Finland, we have regular meetings among different telecom and utility companies where people tell we are going to do that and we are going to do that, and see if there are common routes, for instance. In Portugal, there's a coordination of duct implementation in civil works, and we all thought that civil works should be mandatory for public bodies, and then perhaps rewarded for private bodies. Sources of civil works. In Finland we have Tiehallinto, which is a national traffic authority. It's a website basically where they say where they're going to have traffic or roadworks. In Germany, again, construction atlas. In Kent, there's a web-based system for roadworks. In Spain, there are publications and recommendations done by the Telecommunication Market Commission. In France, there's also digital data relating to copper networks. So there's a different kind of sources where to find out about civil works. And then the permitting. Permitting models. I don't know about the other countries that much, but for example in Finland, the roads that are owned by the government, for those we have to ask permit for the Finnish Transport Agency, and it usually takes about 2-3 months. And if you build the whole municipality at one time, you only need one permit for the whole municipality. Some roads are owned by the community, but for example in our case the community or the municipality is the owner of the fiber optic network, so of course naturally they will give right to or the permit to use that road. And there are some roads that are owned by private people, then we ask for them. Usually if they are also ordering fiber optic network connection, then they will say yes. Handling times within our partnership vary from 2 months up to 6 months. Well, how to improve permitting? Of course, if we would have one, for example, in one country there's a one uniform partner who to contact, it's a lot easier. I know, for example, in UK, it's pretty different situation from Finland. George is nodding, so I remember having these conversations with George that Finland and UK, they are totally, it's like night and day in terms of permitting. So it's a lot more complicated. E-services, we are talking about here broadband. So e-services like online forms, they would be good. And then I would go to the last slide about in-house wiring. That is one thing that Commission wanted to know about. What kind of good practices there are in Europe concerning in-house wirings. In Finland we have a law that every new and renovated apartment house has to have category 6 cable, and each room with at least 2 telecom outlets. In Spain there's a law to regulate common infra to allow access to telecom services to buildings. In France, there are regulations for the deployment of fiber optic cables in buildings with more than 12 dwellings. Well, how to ensure that in-building solutions are good? Well, of course, standards. They are good in this case too. So there should be standards in in-house wiring requirements, enough outlets per one room. It would help. And also some of the partners replied that all the households should have some kind of neutral communication box, like a media converter or similar. Advantages and disadvantages. Well, if all the houses would have proper in-house wiring, they would have ability to use all the benefits of high-speed broadband when the cable comes to their building, remote working, e-health and so on. And also it would make the shift from copper to fiber faster. And when you think about costs, if you do the in-house wiring at the same time you are building the house or you are renovating it, of course it's basically no cost at that time. But some of the partners also thought that, well, cost is a disadvantage in a way that if you have to do it, who pays for it and how much will it cost?